Hi, everybody. Rick DiClemente with Astrology Unplugged. Tonight, we're going to do something related to what we've been doing, but it's also pretty fascinating. I've taken the regular people who come to the show very often. This gives you incentive to become more of a regular. And we've been talking about Pluto for the past 3 weeks. And I looked into all these people's charts. I did all this ahead of time so I wouldn't take up time on the show. And John is coming up first. You'll see how this works. And I gave John 2 dates in his past where I looked in his chart when Pluto was going over specific spots that I thought were very transformative. And this gives you time. Each person has been given their 2 dates. So Melody, I don't have yours because you were not connecting. But when we get to you, I'll just stop the show and look them up and give them to you. So we're going to get started with John. And what we're looking for with the date that I'm giving you is a year either way, because I didn't have the time to pinpoint you down to a certain date. Pluto doesn't work that way anyway. Pluto works very much like you'll feel it coming for about a year. You'll feel it coming for about 6 months. Then you'll really feel it. And then you'll feel it going on back and forth for a couple of years. And you'll feel very like maybe the books don't tell you this, but you'll really feel these transits when they're exact. And Arroyo says it's different, but I disagree. I think when they're right on you, you're going, and you're probably going to with a different finger, but that's how it is. Anyhow, Mr. John, I gave you 2 dates. Turn your microphone on, please. Turn your mute off, right? And
Okay.
John, we're going to start with the date. We got 2 dates each. I'm going to work with you on 1978. And I know you're about 25 by now, but we're going to go way back to 1978. And we're going to look at your life. And I'm not looking, listen closely, I'm not looking specifically about the things in your life that happened. Got that job, got this marriage, etc., etc., etc. It can be. But what I'm mainly looking for is a transition that happened to you. That's what Pluto does. It makes you go through a transformation. And in 1978, I'm going to bring your chart up. If you want to start talking, that'd be fine. But I want to show people what happened in 1978. Any memories, John? John?
Yeah.
I'm asking you, any memories of 1978?
Not really. Yeah, I've been looking through my journal and I'm trying to find that area, and I'm getting closer to it, but I don't have no memories right now of 78.
77, 78, 79. Let's just do it reverse then. Here's Pluto in your chart. Okay.
Huh?
Do you see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, here's Pluto, 78, crossed right there. Okay. At 78, in 78, you were 36 years old.
Okay.
But that's the home life. That's got to deal with separating from the home, changing your roots, putting your roots down in a different place, changing your habits, changing your emotional dependencies. So does that ring a bell for you for 1978 as Pluto was going over the bottom of your chart?
No. Actually, at this point, it doesn't.
Okay, that's fine. That's quite all right. This next one, I'm pretty sure we're going to see as we go through these. These things are not simple, but this next date ought to hit home very closely because it was 2007. This was big time change for you. 2007.
That year, the only things I can remember is a brother-in-law having a heart attack and my best friend dying of cancer.
Okay, let's talk about what happened to you.
Nothing's coming.
You don't remember. Okay. Now let's take a look here. This is very major. Look at the chart, and I'll tell you why. Pluto got to the point here, 25 here, right opposite your Mercury. And when Geminis have their Mercury hit, do you see what I'm showing you? When Pluto opposes your main planet, this should be massive change at this time.
Okay.
Okay, so at that time, this is Linda P. At that time, you should have really started to think deeper. Now, we know that you're not a typical Gemini because you got the strong Pluto. But when Pluto opposed your Mercury, that's like taking a Mercury in Gemini and turning it into Mercury in Scorpio. So that would be a year that you really change mentally, getting deeper, looking behind the scenes. Yeah, Rick? You got a question, Rick?
Yeah, he mentioned a brother dying. Mercury rules siblings. Pluto is death.
I'm not looking for events. I'm
But
looking.
that would have affected him internally.
Well, you're right. You're exactly right.
He had a heart attack, but he didn't die.
Okay.
Yeah, but what did his death cause of change in you? Rick
Near
is
death.
exactly right.
Yeah, I have a lot of notes that I took from those years, and I was trying to reach them. But after this program, I'll go through them because I have a very personal daily inventory that I take of what's going on with me. And I wasn't able, it's so long, and I was trying to get back to 2007.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say to you is this: we're looking at you from 100 miles above the earth here. These are major turning points. These aren't just things happen. These are major surgery. This is like brain surgery in your chart. It's one of the main transits you'll ever have. I think what happened that Rick is suggesting is you got a taste of your own mortality.
Okay. I'll find that in my notes.
Okay, fine. That's
And
fine.
your best friend.
That's usually what happens.
Yeah.
Is you usually do that. Let's move on then. Okay, Naomi's up next. I knew this would be hard to pull off, but we're going to give it a shot. Naomi, you with me? You need to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Are you with me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's your chart. In 1975, what do you recall?
The dates you gave me is 1980.
I gave you, I'm sorry, I read the wrong one. I gave you 1980. That's correct.
Yeah. 1980, I was working hard and I saved up money to buy land, and I went and traveled in India, Russia, and Europe for over a year.
Well, that's wonderful. Now I want to ask you this question that you heard back then. What got into you then?
Spirituality in
Okay,
India.
so this adventure, which is Aryan, Aries like adventure, what was this thrust all about? To discover what about Naomi?
It expanded my world too, and it made me realize how insignificant I was turning up in India.
That's a very good way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
Pluto was right. Pluto was right here.
Yeah, I was
opposite your sun.
Yeah, going. I never realized there was a world out here that was so expansive, and it just, yeah.
Okay, well, Pluto being opposite your sun, let's talk about that in another way. You're exactly right. It can have many manifestations, but when it's opposite your sun, it has a seventh house connotation because you put the sun on the first, Pluto's on the seventh. In other words, Aries are very much like from the beginning, they notice themselves. But when Pluto's opposite your sun, you notice there's a bunch of people out there. you notice there's a whole world of other people. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I was in India and it was like there's billions. So, and it just
Okay.
my
Now, just the fact that you were noticing other people, what did that cause a change in you?
I think the main thing is that having like we're all just like grains of sand. We're all just like walking each other home. We're all these, you know,
Okay,
they are them and I am them, and that connection with, you know, humanity.
Very good. I'll get back to you in a second here. Um, okay, you have to do yours later. Okay, your other date, Naomi, was what?
1989.
Yeah, what happened in 89?
Okay, my father died. I got married. That was short-lived, and I got really sick and I nearly died.
Oh my God, there's a Pluto transit. So in 1989, Pluto was squaring your Neptune. So Pluto was going over your Neptune. So here's Pluto, and it went all this way. And in 89, it was going over that Neptune in the eighth house. That's got a lot to do about death. Thinking about death, seeing death, thinking about reincarnation, seeing about the transfer of one personality to another. This should have made you a deeper personality.
Yeah, and it may, I think in reflection, like the first transit in 1980, I was taking responsibility for myself, but the second transit, what comes up is that I wasn't taking responsibility really fully for myself. They're the two.
I see, on a bigger level.
Yeah, popped up, but yeah.
Well, what would you say with Neptune involved? What would you say was a big turning point that year with your spirituality?
I think that's why I got sick, and you know, it was a really bad time. Of course, I wasn't connecting with my spirituality.
So this kind of forced you to?
Yeah, I don't think I still did clearly. Yeah, I think it must probably be pushing me, but I don't think I did it clearly enough.
No, it's not simple. It's not simple. These are long-term stages. So it's probably the beginning of a lot of depth research to your spirituality. Thank you. I'm going to move on. Very good. Jane?
Hi, Rick.
I don't have much here. Hold on, please. I'm going to pause. Hi, Jane. We're back again. We're looking at yours. I only found one date. It was 1987, but it should have been a really big deal.
Yeah.
Go ahead and tell me what you discovered at that time.
Well, I'll sort of put it in context in that it was a pretty crazy year emotionally, with a partner that became an ex-partner. And then it also was a crazy year when I was working 3 jobs, 2 in theatre, and you know, behind the scenes. And I was working for Captain Cook Cruises on Sydney Harbour, being a commentator, and I was a mess. I was a complete mess for a while there.
What I want to know, what was happening to Jane? So
a lot to do with what do I want to do? Where do I want to head?
Okay, feeling lost, directionless.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think something happened with one of those jobs where I gained this sort of inner strength because I was being treated badly.
Okay.
And I started looking for another job. I met with someone to do with an interview. I was able to go back to the person that was my boss and just be really strong and clear. And it's like I got my self-worth went.
Okay, let's stop right there, because you're exactly right. What Pluto does when it's on the top of your chart,
Yeah.
it's a big deal. You've all remember scenes of the big mouth, Muhammad Ali. I am the greatest. Remember when he did all that? I did it all on purpose. That's symbolic of this. You're on the top of the world. You're taking your stake and you're sticking it in the earth. And you're saying, this is mine. This is where I stand. And when I do this research, Jane, people get a hard time if they haven't been able to stand their ground yet. Then when they do stand their ground, they stop getting a hard time. It's all whether you can stand your ground. That's exactly what you said. You were being pushed around because you were listless. You didn't really have a place yet. And then you stood, and then what you said behind the scenes was Pluto brought you your power.
Yeah, true.
You just talked to us as if this thing came out of the sky.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's not. It's not. It comes up from inside. And what you found out was that part of you didn't like being bullied.
Yeah.
And then what did you do?
Well, I've got a sort of nearly a dream job. I got my first job in television production on a drama.
Well, I want to know what you did as far as a person. What was the difference in you?
I suppose I just felt stronger. I felt that I was in a place where I was with, it's a funny thing to say, but where I was with my people. It was a place where I felt like I could be me.
That's exactly right.
Not tiptoe around.
Okay, now Aries people are headstrong. Does this make any sense to you? When Pluto at the top of your chart in Scorpio, that's not like doing it in airy fairy Gemini or Libra. This is Scorpio now. This is, I'm claiming my land now. Boom, this is me. This is what you did at that time, and you would have surprised yourself.
I did. I did.
Now, another thing that happens there, Jane, is that never leaves you. That never leaves.
It's interesting. Yeah.
It never leaves you.
It's always there.
That's a major brick that you put down in your platform.
It doesn't mean you don't.
Yeah, you have trouble.
Yeah. But the core.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. That's called the plinth. My girlfriend tells me that's called the plinth.
Yeah, okay.
That's the base of a statue. The basis of a statue. Like what Statue of Liberty is standing upon. That is your foundation. So that when Pluto hits the top of the chart, it's really difficult. And I have a lot of clients go through that, and you could feel it coming, and you could feel when it's on you. And one of the main things it does is you stop messing around. You stop messing around with people that are 50-50 friends, and you start hanging on to the ones that are real friends.
Yeah.
So you found your story is excellent. It sounds like it did really well. Thank you very much.
That's all right. I thought you said 2010 as well, but let's not worry about
that. Oh, I'm
that.
sorry.
No, that's all right.
No. I don't want to miss anything. I've got a lot of dates here. No. I have 80 and 89.
You mean 1989? No.
I mean 1980 and 19. No. I'm sorry. No, I just have the one day. 87.
Just 87. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Because you got on later. Oh, thank you. All right. Now I'm trying to get everybody in order. Anita, you are next. And you had two dates. One's 2005, one's 2015. You can do what you like. I'm going to get your chart on the screen.
2005, things at work were going really well. However, at the same time, I was dealing with, I was caught up, not caught up, I was in the court system at work.
Pluto was right here. Pluto was right here. Go ahead.
And so I spent a good deal of time getting ready for a case. It was a case of someone that I had fired and that took me to court, and I won that case. 2006, my brother was arrested, and I was thrust into the federal court system, and spent every night working well past midnight.
Okay,
And then-
let's stop right there. I'll tell you why. This was
Okay.
so major because Pluto was squaring your moon. This is your ruling planet because you're a
yeah.
Cancer. This is not like a sextile or a trine. Pluto was squaring that moon. And did you notice that you give it a couple of years either way, you're talking about major things happening with that woman. The ninth house has got to do with using lawyers. Then you talk about your brother's case, and you're talking about the embroilment that the whole case seemed to suck up your whole family into that case.
Mhm.
And the moon is the center of a Cancer's heart. It's their family. And what Pluto did to your moon, I couldn't begin to ask you what happened to you. But you are a completely different person than you were before that.
Yes, I was. I spent every day from 4 o'clock until midnight researching and preparing to fight the federal government on behalf of my brother. So yeah, it was a whole different life that I began to live. Mhm.
When you're fighting Pluto, it's very common that it's the FBI, it's the IRS, it's the mafia, it's some big organization that you just don't fool with, and it's not easy, and it takes you down to your core.
Yeah, it did. It did. It did. It took me to my core, and I had to be very brave.
Well, what I like about this is usually it makes you about 50 times stronger once it's over.
Yeah. Okay. And then 2015, things at work were not going well. I decided to leave, and I was happy about that decision. But then 3 months later, I got extremely ill. And yeah.
Pluto was opposite your sun. Pluto was opposite, it was right here, opposite the United States sun. Since you're born on the 5th and the USA is born on the 4th, you're going to get them at the same time. Pluto being opposite your sun is the threat to your vitality. But also, when the sun gets hit, I don't care what happened, it was an identity crisis.
Yes, it was. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. Yeah.
And Pluto on your sun redefines how you deal with everybody else.
Yeah, I think I had to shed a few skins in order to please myself instead of pleasing others. I mean, I know that I can please others if I please myself first. I have that confidence. But that's not how I was raised. I was raised to please others. And so yeah, it was pretty rough to go through that, I guess.
Well, also, if you'll look and see here, astrologically, there's only 10 years difference between when it hits your moon and when it hits your sun.
Oh.
Those are two major planets.
Mm-hmm.
So Pluto, once again, your strength was brought to you.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if I can make this clear to everybody, because it's not easy. When Pluto is approaching us, It's not out there approaching us. It's inside and it wants out. And Pluto is very much known for being insistent, and it wants you to own your courage. And if you've had a pretty good history of being good with your courage, you won't have it too bad. And if you have not, if you've been bowled over all the time, then you have a lot of issues when Pluto comes around. But that's why the illness, that's why the federal government issues, family issues. But the main thing it did to you when you go back 100 miles is early Cancerians. Early Cancerians identities are based upon their family. This totally changed it.
I didn't know that I had courage.
There you go.
I didn't know that I had the ability or the composition to have courage. I just thought I was me, but I had to face that. And you're right. I think I had to go through those in order to realize that my strength is mine.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's universal and it impacts others, but if it doesn't come from within me,
Right.
where?
You're exactly right. And that's why in a little bit, I want to ask Melody. Melody's been studying with us for quite a while. Melody is a very good astrologer who's also a Cancer. And the reason I want to get to Melody later on is to ask her to check out something I've been perceiving, which is that Cancer people seem to be very reliant on the family during the quote first half of their life. Then it shifts. Now, I don't think it shifts for everyone, but it certainly seems to shift around 50 or 60, where the Cancer is not as desperate about the buffer with the family, and they become stronger on their own. Anyhow, we'll get to that one later. Thank you very much, Anita. That was really good.
Yeah, thanks.
Now you know why it was so tough.
Yeah.
You were dealing with the big boy then.
Yeah, for sure.
And at that time, we didn't even know there was an heiress.
No.
Okay, let's go on to the next one here.
Hey, Rick, can I say something?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 2007 was a long time ago. I'm looking at my notes, and here's what I find. I had a major mystical experience in 1999, and it took me about 7 or 8 years to see how that fits into my destiny, and that would have been around 2007.
Okay.
I finally realized that this was me.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah,
I got a lot to say. Go ahead.
yeah.
Your chart, 2007.
Yeah.
Pluto was opposite your Mercury. So in this chart, it was a 25 Sag opposite Mercury. Go ahead.
Well, it seemed like my consciousness opened up so I could really relate it to my life.
Exactly.
I've been hiding this for years because people will think you're crazy and you can't talk about it. It's incommunicable, so don't even try. I finally got to the point where, hey, this is me. This is my destiny, and I've got to take responsibility for it. And I started writing more about what it means in my life. And I didn't do that before. I was flummoxed and just trying to fit this into my life as a lawyer.
What happens with Geminis is they get overrun with too many details.
Yeah.
Because they're detail collectors. And after a while, you got so many details, it's hard to fit anything together like an Aquarian does. Aquarius is different. They're constantly fitting the puzzle together. 11th sign, very different than the 3rd sign. Okay, another thing you said.
But in 2000,
another thing you said is your consciousness expanded.
It did, but there was more depth.
That's why I was telling you. I was telling you, you're going to get deeper. That's exactly right.
That was 2007.
All right. Okay, well, Pluto works very deeply. But see, when you have a lot of Gemini like you do, even though you got Pluto rising, that's a lot of stuff to work through. Because Gemini wants to stay on the surface, wants to stay on the surface, wants to stay up here. I'm going to miss a party. If I go somewhere else, I'm going to miss the party. And Pluto's telling you, come down deep. And the Mercury's really threatened. I don't want to go down deep. What for? I miss all this stuff. So you got the two trying to correlate.
Absolutely. You're right.
And now we gave you 30-minute break, and all that stuff busted through your memory.
Okay. No, I was really going to my notes.
Well, whatever it did, it surfaced.
Yeah.
And then you started from that date forward becoming a blend of the Gemini who collects data and the deep analyzer also, how to work the two together.
In 2000,
I know I'm right because Rick is shaking his head up and down.
you were right, but in 2007, I got to this point of what are you going to do about this?
That's okay. You see, all you folks, all us folks, worry too damn much about what we're gonna do.
No, I don't mean it in that sense. I mean it in what I'm going to be.
You don't have to
How
decide.
I'm gonna,
You
how
don't have
I'm
to
gonna-
decide what you're going to be. It just happens.
Yeah. Okay.
Everybody in your Gemini notes, remember, you're always going to have to fight with them. Okay? Put that down in your notes. Melody.
Yeah, but it even makes
It's
it worse.
not A. I just said A, but it's not A.
Yeah, but it makes it worse because I'm a lawyer too.
I know. Well, what sign is the orange one? Gemini. All right, this is marvelous. Thank you. That was really a good story. Thank you very much, Anita, too. All right, moving on to Marsha. Marsha. Okay. Now your chart's a lot like mine, so I'm going to give you the stories about your chart. Let's go to yours. And okay. All right. Here's Marsha's chart. I gave you the dates of 80 and I gave you 03. I gave you 23-year difference.
Right.
Now, I'm going to try to find you on my screen, which will appear sooner or later. Okay. In 1980, here's your chart. Pluto was, and I want you to tell me what it means astrologically. I'm going to just show it to you, and you tell me what it means astrologically. Pluto was here. What do you think it was doing then?
Well, it was for me personally,
Yeah.
it gave me a lot of opportunity.
Mhm.
I had like a whole world of opportunity opening to me.
Okay.
Creatively, it was a big creative opening.
Now, that's what I suspected exactly. And one of the reasons it's hard to talk about, it was hitting 5 planets at once.
Hmm.
It was all over these 2 and all over these 3.
Okay.
And when the Mars is what I was looking at, because the Mars is dampened down all the time. My Mars and Neptune are even closer than yours are.
Hmm.
The same degree, 2 days difference in our
Mhm.
birth.
Mhm.
It was hitting your Mars then. And what do you think Pluto does when it hits the Mars?
Well, there's an explosion of sorts.
That's exactly right.
And so I kind of exploded into the theater scene in New York City. And I had lots of avenues that I was working through. And it was just, there was just, things just started coming.
I want to say one thing to you that we've never talked about because we've known each other so long. Okay, I'm 2 days after you. I'm born with Jupiter and Eris at the same degree. Talk about explosion. One of the things I've never told you, but if anybody ever asked me, what is Marcia like? Marcia is like this explosion of Jupiter. She's just like this. Oh, yeah, let's go do it. Yeah, let's go do it. Who played Puck in the woods in Kentucky? The Shakespeare play. Who was the one playing Puck dancing across the stage? And the fact that you were already pre-explosive, able to deal with that ebullience, is why you didn't have much trouble. Because Pluto Mars can be a lot of trouble, and if it doesn't escape my memory too bad, I do believe you were dating an Aries gentleman at the time.
Yes.
There's your Mars. Okay,
Yeah.
so what I'm saying to you is during that time, especially with a grand square, 2 planets, 3 planets, 1 planet, 2 planets, that Pluto could have really given that thing a whirl, but you didn't have so much trouble with it because you had already established that Jupiter outlet.
Yes, I had. It had been established for a while.
That's right. And that's
Yes.
why people hired you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the really good things. When an astrologer looks, don't look at the aspect. Oh, they got Pluto hitting Jupiter. Start with interviewing the client. What did you do with enthusiastic options a couple years before that? What did you do with enthusiastic options in high school when everybody's being a cheerleader? Did you say no, 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 no? Did you say yes, yes?
Mm-hmm.
You see, that's why you go back to find the energy pattern in their life. Then you see what's likely during the exact transit. Your other day was what?
2003.
Yes, 2003. So we got your chart, and at that time, Pluto was here. So-
2003 was it was the year my mother died,
I'm sorry.
and it was the deepest grief I've ever felt in my life.
Is that right?
Oh, terribly, terribly. I felt like part of my soul had been ripped away. In a way, not exactly, that's not the exact way to put it, I guess. It's like I finally realized what my mother was to me, and then she was gone. It was hard.
Now, I'm sure it was. I knew Egg. I want to ask you a question just for my notebook. I've been busy telling a lot of people, and I'm just check this out for verification, that it seems like death, that people leave us when they know you're going to be okay. Does that make any sense to you?
Oh, yes.
Because it seems to make I get a lot of yeses with this. They leave after, I don't care what the relationship's like. It's a soul level. I know Marcia's going to be in good hands. Marcia's going to be all right. So I can go about my trails.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the second thing that happened beside the death of the mother, and if you're doing astrology with Rick, what Rick would do would have you take this Mercury and look to the rulership. So Mercury rules your 7th house at that time. It also rules your midheaven. So with the Virgo midheaven and Mercury involved, there's every chance in the world that you would start to change your career, job skill sets to be more mentally aligned.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened with the job skill sets at that time?
Well, I was strongly considering studying homeopathy back then.
But you did.
I did some. But a little bit earlier than 2003.
Okay.
but also at that time, I was very involved of being a single mother.
Yeah.
I was raising my daughter and working in the theater. And I went through a bad relationship too for a while. That was funky.
I would think that there would be a phenomenal relationship with the death of the mother while you're raising your child.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, Pluto hitting Mercury, just like with John, the mind changes. And you and I have the Mercury in Sag, which is kind of playful.
Right.
But
right.
Mercury, when Pluto hits it, becomes more like a Mercury in Scorpio.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
You are welcome. Let me move along here. Melody, I'm going to have to pause the show. We'll be back in a second with her charts. Okay, now we're ready to go with Melody. Now, Melody, we saw your two dates were 02 and 15.
Mhm.
Let's go into the charts. If I can get all this regulated right. Okay. Okay. Melody, we're up and running. And in 2002, your Pluto was
And Sag across from the Gemini.
opposite the Venus Saturn. Okay.
Yeah.
So we see that the Venus Saturn is not really major, but still it's strong. It's not like the planets in the T square. Okay, but it's still a major part of you. And one can tell when they're talking to you, you have a playful interaction with others. Now, what happened when Pluto was going through your sixth house and started opposing these planets for a couple of years?
I got married in 2001.
Mhm.
And
That's
2000,
serious.
yeah. And in 2001, I changed the way I was looking for a partner. And so rather than finding true love, I found a solid friendship and decided that that would be longer lasting and a better idea.
Okay.
So
Now,
my guess is that in 2002, I was seriously wrestling with reconsidering whether that was a good idea.
well, the good thing about this is you did not go directly to events.
Right.
You went directly to what was happening inside.
Yes.
Then you can go back outside. So,
Right.
what we're really talking about here is a Venus Saturn in somebody's chart is very unusual when it's in Gemini,
Mhm.
because the Venus Saturn is all about containing your flirtatiousness, containing your friendly, fun loving part, but it's in Gemini.
Yeah, I think the
But-
best part about it is the fact that Gemini allows for two faces.
Yeah.
And so it helps harmonize the Saturn with the Venus and allows both to shine on different sides of the coin.
Well, I think you gave a real explanation that made sense and you went through it well. People don't always go through these things easily. Some people go through HEEHELL when their Saturn gets hit. In other words, this fight explodes.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it probably did explode with you a couple different evenings. You weren't.
There were some things
Mhm.
around the wedding with my father that weren't so great.
Well,
was
there's
definitely-
the Saturn.
Yeah.
But what we're looking at is ever since this date, you became freer with
Mhm.
whatever you did in relationships because you'd already worked it out in the brain.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Very good stuff. 2015. Oh my God. I remember that. We were doing astrology then. Pluto was right here going into the seventh house, opposing the sun.
Yeah. I looked in the mirror. I looked in the mirror and said, would it be so bad if I was the first person in my family of origin to get divorced? And I
Really good.
looked myself in the eye and said, if it made me happier, if it made my life better, then it wouldn't be so bad to do that.
Now tell me how that question gets answered by most Cancer women.
Oh, hell no.
Oh, what's
Most of
going to
them are like,
happen
oh
to
no,
the
I can't
kid?
do that.
What's going to
I still
happen
struggle
to?
with it. I
Right.
still struggle with it. I'm still like, oh
Of
my
course
God, I
you
can't
do.
leave my family.
But you had the square to Uranus, you had the square to Eris, you had the square to Chiron, the opposition to the sun. So
Wow.
what made you capable of getting through this was how strong the sun is.
Yeah.
And that's
That's
because the sun is on the ascendant, and we're getting the yes from Rick, who lives
Yeah.
with the same thing. So he's definitely putting his thumbs up. Well, that's really good because not everybody would make it through so easily.
Yeah.
Now,
Uh,
when Pluto went past you, hitting so much at once, the main thing Pluto was doing, in my mind, was Pluto was leaving the bottom half of the zodiac and then going into the top half.
mhm.
And that's the Goldilocks, or that's the Cinderella. Hey, world, I've been this for a long time, but hello, because this is me.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of strength for you to maintain that without the family. Okay, because your son was strong enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I believe around then you found astrology pretty good too.
Yeah. That was 2010, but yeah. 2011. Yeah.
Pretty good. Good stuff. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's hold on here and see who's next. Erica, you with me? Unmute yourself, dear. We're going to go to your chart. Now we're going to try this with everybody. Is this all sinking in? Good. Good. Because some weeks I'm going to pick out something and everybody's going to go, I don't know what you're talking about. That's what Claudia does when I talk to her. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. No, she doesn't. Erica, let's welcome your chart here. Okay. Erica, we got 2 dates for you.
2 dates?
2 dates.
Oh, you've got 1975 and 1986.
That's correct. This is the homework I did before the show came on. I want to know in 19, see now look at this chart, and you have to automatically get your eyes real big when you look at Neptune opposite these 4 planets. That's what's known as a big deal. Okay? That's what you call, she took this life for some major spiritual challenge. We don't know much about it yet, but we know when Pluto hits it, that spiritual challenge came on board big time, 1975, as Pluto was right here. So what do you recall about that time, Erica?
Okay, so first of all, Pluto was conjunct my Neptune.
Right.
At the same time, Uranus was square my Saturn, and I was having my Saturn return.
So you were having a Saturn return at the same time.
Yep, and
this
then
is a big
yeah,
deal.
and Neptune was also conjunct my Mercury.
Okay, you're doing an
All-
awful lot of work then. So what
All at
happened?
the same time.
Yes, that's just like you take them all once. What happened to you when Pluto hit the ascendant?
Well, I decided to settle down. I was 28 years old. I had some failed relationships before that. I really wanted to be a professional person and to be free because when I was very young, my heart was just crushed. And my dream for, being in love and marrying somebody and having a family was over already at the age of 18.
Boy.
I figured you only fall in love once, right? So I was going for other things. I was going for the theater, for New York, for, the whole flower children hippie thing, the whole, the change in politics, the revolution. I had been very sheltered and I just, burst out of that bubble in
Okay, we're gonna stop
you know
right.
the
We're gonna stop
suburbs
right.
of
Let's
okay
stop right there. Bursting
okay
the bubble was Pluto over the Neptune. Okay, it's exactly what it is.
okay
And settling down is not the Pluto transit; it's the Saturn return. So you see how
okay
they're going on at the same time. But yeah, the bursting of the bubble. That's really a good way to put it. One way of putting it that I see with Pluto Neptune is it pulls you out of a dream world and it pulls you into, and you are a Taurus, it pulls you more into a realistic world. Does that make sense?
yeah, I had seen a little bit of the world and I saw that, like you said, it's not like a dream world out there. I had tried to make it in New York and then I ended up going back to my parents in Detroit because I couldn't make it on my own. They wouldn't support me in going to acting school and all that stuff. So I went back and I went to community college, and my boyfriend from New York would keep coming out to see me, and then he proposed to me and I ended up moving back to moving back to New York and marrying him, and we got married and started a business in the jewelry business back in 1975.
So your other
So
day,
it was in Libra.
okay, so you see Pluto coming over your ascendant mixed with the Saturn return. See many, many strengths coming to you, many changes. Zoom forth to 1986 when Pluto opposed your sun.
I got a divorce.
Ooh.
We had already been separated for about 5 years, but we didn't go through the legal thing of having a divorce because we were so intertwined legally with the store and the house and all this different stuff. And I had just really been thrown off of my foundation because I had not planned on this and I couldn't stay with him because he had cheated on me and I didn't trust him anymore. So I had to kind of reinvent myself. And I decided to go to school and study jewelry design, which is what I wanted to do when we had the store, but I wasn't able to because
Okay.
I had to do everything else.
So we see that Pluto opposite your sun is once again a seventh house matter. One of the most common things of Pluto in a seventh house is divorce. Or better put, Pluto opposite the sun is deciding how you want to go forward. How do you want to go forward with a mate or without? So we see that you went through a very tough time since it was in Scorpio. But after the dust settled, which is probably around 2010, it would take several years for it to settle. Things would get a lot better.
Well, I was doing a lot of transformational work at the time. I did the S training at the time to really, become more spiritual and to kind of cut all of the guilt and everything associated with my, the way I was brought up as a very strict Catholic.
Oh boy.
By nuns and all this whole thing.
Oh boy.
So like, I was like done for. And
okay, well.
And then I did the S training. And I was having, good time reliving a new life. Then I met somebody, and a year later we got married because I had just managed to get a divorce because I had put that off.
Well, that's a place where I'm going to stop you, and I'm sorry, but I got to move on. But that's a good place for you to end it there, and I'm happy for you. Yes, Rick has a question.
I just wanted to say that coincides with the Pluto conjunct Chiron that you were going through the spiritual changes.
Yeah, that's true too. Okay, very good.
I think a lot of people were at that time. A lot of people were doing the S training. It was
it was big
thing.
Stuff. Thank you. I'm sorry, I got to move on, honey. Thank you very much.
Both Ricks.
Yeah, Ray, you're up next. Let's get your chart.
And I'm here.
Okay, dear.
There is something that I kind of want to say is a major thread through my life has been since 2008 looking after my mother and father's last wishes. What does that coincide with? Pluto moving into Capricorn.
Yes, right here.
And it is going to end this December, which is kind of close to the end of Pluto being in Capricorn. So that is kind of an interesting thread throughout my life.
Okay, now we have to look at the main points in your life, and we could talk about so many, but my mind took me exactly to when Pluto got to here and opposed to Saturn.
Yes.
Okay, that's big deal. We got big deal. That's right. 2016. So when it opposed the Saturn from the 7th to the 1st, what happened?
Well, that is kind of encapsulated in the part of Pluto moving through that piece. Right. Does it make a difference that it is part of the 8th house?
Yes and no. Go ahead. Mostly at this point, it's mostly 7th.
Correct. And
see, that Saturn is keeping the entire chart hostage. And when that Pluto hit it, there was no Saturn really is insistent upon keeping its grip. But when Pluto hit it, no more, because Pluto has a bigger, broader view. And it can see beyond what Saturn can see, especially for an Aquarian woman.
Okay.
So what happened? So what happened to you in general, in relationships too?
Honestly, I swore off booze and boys. The 5 year, the 5 years after my mom died. So yeah, there wasn't much happening in 2016.
I like the sound
2017, that's a different question, but 2016, no.
I like that for a song title. I swear. Booze and boys.
Yeah.
Okay, so when Pluto hits your Saturn, let's talk about it astrologically. What Pluto does when it hits Saturn, it says, hey, Mr. Saturn, you're worrying too much. you're hanging on too tightly. You got
Okay.
such a grip on your emotions that the Aquarian mind can't even be free. It's being affected by you being so concerned from past life issues and gripping that Saturn too tight.
Gotcha. Okay.
So did Pluto get its way?
Um, Pluto is still playing itself out. How about this? Like I had a bull snake in my basement.
A what? A what?
I had a snake in my
A
basement.
boa snake?
A bull snake. Bull, like Bull. It's
I'm not
non-venomous, non-venomous snake.
I'm not
But it
gonna
was still, but it was still a snake in my basement. You know.
Now, was it a snake in the basement or was it a pet?
Oh, no, it was a wild creature.
Oh my God.
And so you know how you talk about people needing to clean out their
Okay.
basements when it comes to Pluto related things. I don't know. Apparently, I needed to clean out like a 3-foot snake out of my basement.
Now, was it poisonous?
No, it was
Okay,
not venomous.
now symbolically,
Mhm.
it means something. What does it mean to have a snake in your basement?
It means that I needed to clean some things out.
What you had to do it secretly?
Oh no, I put out the alert to like far and wide because
Oh, why wasn't it a chipmunk? How come it's a snake?
good question. Don't know.
Shedding
know,
a part of her, shedding a part of her, says Claudia. That makes sense. Rick, yeah.
Yeah, and I would love to hear Kempi and Claudia's input on like my Pluto. That would be
Yeah.
absolutely lovely. Um,
Go ahead,
I
Rick. Go ahead.
don't.
Your Pluto natally sits in the basement of your chart.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Uranus was making its opposition to its original position.
Mhm.
That's why it was a weird snake.
Kundalini awakening,
Yeah,
dealing with the root chakra,
Kundalini.
was happening in you and showing itself in the house.
Boy,
your
does that
home.
make sense.
While
So-
you're also dealing with Saturn Cancer issues, all of this home thought.
So the end result is, what happened to your Saturn? After you look back years later, you look back at that turning point. What usually happens when a Saturn gets hit is it gripes and bitches and lets go, but then it grabs on again. It's just got to. It does both.
It's
Remember, it's got that opposite connection. So there's the personal home mindset and the public mindset, the work ethic. So there could be a pull between home and career that was manifesting through this internal crap.
gotcha. Yeah. It's. I'm not exactly.
Take your time.
You know, honestly, if I had answers, I would say them. But I don't.
That's okay.
Yeah,
Then go on.
um,
That's okay. It can be too big sometimes. Then go on to your next stage. 2000. In 2000, Pluto's on his Neptune.
mhm. Well, 2023. Guess where Pluto is? Going back and forth over.
Well, it's right here.
Yeah, exactly.
But in
So
two,
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I've been kind of overwhelmed. I don't know if anybody else has like planets at 15 degrees in the fixed signs, but it's been kind of a beast of a year
Oh,
because
yeah.
we've had Uranus going over it, we've had Jupiter going over it, and if it's conjunctions or squares or opposites, it's been kind of a thing.
Well, what did Pluto do to your Neptune?
Good question.
2000.
Oh, I moved to Hawaii.
What kind
Moving
of
towards water.
Yes, water.
Is it? Yeah.
Is there any movement towards spirit?
Well, yeah, like personally, yeah, going towards tarot and astrology more.
There you go. Very good. Very good stuff. Very good. Okay, we're going to move on here. Thank you very
Very good.
much. Thanks, Ray.
Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, and we're going to pause so we can look up Peggy stuff. Ready? Back with Peggy now, whose dates are 82 and 16. Okay, Peggy, in
Yeah.
1982, it was on this let's get your, this is such a pain, getting the screen straight.
It's nice you
Okay.
can though.
Yeah, there we go, there we go. See the big
We
T
record?
square, the T square to Saturn, Neptune? All
Yeah.
right, and Pluto's right here.
Are we
Let me explain.
recording?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
recording.
Okay, I didn't know.
Yeah, I'd say welcome back. Okay,
Okay.
now, the thing about Saturn Neptune is a very, very difficult combination to talk about. Ever since it happened, people born with it, it's just difficult because these are two strange bedfellows. The Saturn Neptune I've found with people is I believe in spirit. No, I don't. I don't believe it. Yes, I do. Oh, I believe it. No, I don't. I feel it. Okay, so it's very common from past life research. You find Saturn Neptune ping-ponging in the person's mind before the incarnation. And it's because they believe, but they're scared to believe. It's totally understandable. So you got this going on your whole life. Pluto's here, and it's going over your sun when you're young, and it's going over in 1982. In 1982, you're what, 29?
Yeah, around there.
You're having a Saturn return while Pluto's here. So, woo.
Yeah, it was no fun.
Yeah, but what happened?
Well, I had been married 5 years and I decided we got forced to get married. You know, both of our parents jumped up and down. So we got married and I got divorced. And then right after that, my father died, my boyfriend died, and then my grandfather died.
Hey, that's the Pluto. Now I'm going to tell
And
you
then I had to
something.
have my
I'll tell you something, and it's not always true, but it's more true than not. Pluto brings deaths to us in triplicate. It's definitely not always true, but it's very common. It brings 3 within a year or so. Go ahead, dear.
Okay, and then my mom moved in with me, and that was another whole deal because she had a lot of problems, and I was responsible, and my brother, he bailed. So here I am going through all this, and I'm pretty strong to begin with. I was pretty strong, and I could take it all, but my father dying was really the worst. Like you say, you feel your soul ripped out. He went too young. And then I was, left to handle all this by my brother.
and we had no relatives, so I was the only person to take care of everything at 29. What did I know about handling all the death and everything and all the paperwork? So I just became stronger from all this. I
Okay,
felt
let's
I
take
could do
let's
it,
take this internally. Okay, this
Yes,
Chiron
inside.
opposite Uranus is very common. For 37 years, everybody had it from 1952 to 1989. Just about everybody, because they just traveled opposite each other. Okay, it was just weird the way the ovals were. What is this? This is so common. This is why you people are here. This is a love of astrology. This is a love of alternative medicine. And we know, talking with you through many years now, that you're very similar to everybody else in your love and your following of different alternative ways of looking at things. But what's going on in the chart? You have to look back at the chart. This is along the third house, ninth house axis. This is somebody who has traditional ideas and untraditional ideas going back and forth, and the square is being sent to Saturn and Neptune, and they're not helping any because Saturn wants a realistic output and Neptune wants an unrealistic one. So this whole triangle is just spinning. It's just spinning. This ain't got nothing to do with mom or dad or divorce or any of that. This has got to do with your incarnation and the spinning that went on for so long. And let me tell you, my experience is very common. It's very common to have the Saturn Neptune ping pong. But when Pluto hit it, when your Pluto hit that spot, I'm hunching that it was not to keep continuing, that something had to stop. So what happened?
Well, okay. Everybody disappeared out of my life, but I got my mother, yay. Got rid of the divorce. Then I lost my job. So my life changed entirely, and had a difficult, I didn't fall apart and go nuts, but I just sort of crunched down and got a lesser job because I had so much hit me that I had to work through it.
Right.
And I just felt squashed for a while.
Okay, now let's take a moment and look at that. As if the raccoon gets back in the cave and takes her babies in the corner and she compresses them for a little while. There's nothing wrong. And she needs to do that. That's what I see happening. But when the expression came, when it was time to uncompress, what was the new Peggy like?
Well, I made sure I got a job. I made sure I bought a new house so my mom and I would have somewhere to live. I made sure that my future was getting a foundation. I wanted to get back into a different type of job. I was a computer programmer and I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. So I had to, I started out as a bartender, and then I worked in the medical field and worked my way back to something that I would be happier with.
What happened to you?
I changed. I was sort of like a Neptune type of person. I was, just go with whatever comes, except I had to have a good job. And I decided I grew up. I became
okay. All right, that makes sense. Let's move on from that. Let's talk about 2016.
Okay.
What did we see? Pluto here. Now this has to be major stuff. 2016, it's got to do with your skill set, with your spiritual set, with your wound, all these things. This is a bucket pattern.
Yeah.
This is a bucket handle. And Pluto's right on it.
Yeah. Well, I was talking about wounded physically. I was a mess. My back had gotten bad. Both my hips were going bad. I was getting ready for a divorce, my second divorce. I had people at work that were always picking on me and everything, and there was a lot of fighting going on, and they kept dragging me into it, and I kept saying, I don't want to be into it. I need, I just want to work here. And
A typical Virgo
it's all
response.
culminated up to, yeah.
And what was the result of that time period?
I just well, I eventually realized I had to take care of my health and get a hip replacement. And all along I've been, looking, I'm not a churchgoer, but I've been looking to spirit and to take strength from Reiki and stuff like that, and become a better person, and to try and become more spiritual. All that kept coming through. And I think I'm getting there.
All Virgo,
going to be doing
all Virgos will use that expression during these kind of questions to become a better person. It's very serious. That's the heart of Virgo. That's the heart of the goddess. It's not a Hindu. It's not a Buddhist. It's the down to earth, I'm a better person. I need to move on. I'm sorry I'm the last person, but I think you saw what Pluto did, and I'm glad you got those dates because you need to go over them, give them some thought. Thank you very much, Peggy. I'm sorry, trying to get through everybody tonight, and we'll finish with Linda here. Linda, did I give you dates? I don't hear a voice.
Do you want me to give you a date?
Did I give you dates?
No.
Well, I've got them here. Hold on, please.
Well, I was a little late. That's probably why.
Oh, that's probably what it is. All right. Linda, your dates are this. 92, yours is different. 92 through 94. The whole 3-year period. She's holding her face, watch out. And 2015.
Oh, so perfect.
So we'll go look to 92 through 94 and we'll see why I gave you a date range. This is working out perfectly because everybody's going to get their turn. All right. Still can't get it. There it is. Okay. 92 through 94. Pluto's going over here. Okay, Pluto starts here. This is the big deal, and I tell you why. It's not just because Pluto's natally squaring the moon. I'm sorry, Pluto's squaring the moon and Pluto's squaring the ascendant. That's not the issue here. The issue here is Pluto's, in a sense, got a big mouth through the whole time. Through all her life, Pluto's really important. That's the issue here. Nevertheless, whether Pluto's hitting here or here or here or what, Pluto's very significant because it's in the midst of everything at all times. So when it does come and square itself and hit the ascendant
in Scorpio,
and then hit the moon, you're talking about a big time death and rebirth. So it's got many factors to it. Now, how do you put it? I know you're pulling your hair out, but that's okay. How do you put it, dear?
Well, my dad died in 1990. And
so we're talking about,
well,
90,
I know, but
90, I'm just saying, I'm reminding you.
92 to 94.
92 to 94, go ahead.
But you cannot understand 92 to 94 without without that reference
Right.
point. So my dad died in 1990, and I didn't know how to grieve. It was like the first, I mean, many people in my family have passed and some of my friends have passed at that point, but, and I felt sad or whatever, but this was like shook me, my foundation, because it was very quick and so on. So I was in a relationship. I was not married, but I was living with someone for like a decade, very long term, really close friends with this person as well as, a partner, if you will. And what happened by 1992, I left that relationship. And because for a number of reasons, but the big reason was I could not finish my dissertation if I stayed there. I did not know how to be in this thing with my dad, grieving my dad, and still finish my dissertation while I was dealing with.
What did she put her priority on, being a cardinal air sign?
Well, I did my dissertation.
You put your priority on the major. How do I continue? How can I live and keep my mind alive?
Right, that's right.
Other people like a cancer, they would care less about this.
Well, and the worst of it is if I were doing it again, knowing what I know now, I could have done all of it, because I would have
that's okay. But
I would have handled the whole thing differently. But
you did what was naturally pressured.
But I moved out and borrowed $9,000 and spent the summer writing my dissertation. And then, it wasn't quite finished. And then I got my job, and then I had another year to finish. So that whole period of time was me finishing up, starting the job I have now, and moving into my career.
That Pluto transit was so hard. It's surprising that you didn't die. That's how intense that transit was.
Yeah, it was bad. but I got through it.
I'm glad you didn't, but I'm telling you, that was one of the big ones.
Yeah.
It was just too much at once.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, but it was a lot. It was a lot.
Okay, now it got to your moon. What happened?
Pardon?
When it got to your moon in 94, what happened?
94. I mean, at that point, 94. I don't know. I mean, I was finished. I was starting things, and I started getting more responsibilities, and I started having more opportunities, and it was like, okay, my life is launched. Of course, at this point, I was like in another relationship. And
what happened to you emotionally?
I would say that what I did was go into Libra mode and imagine that even though I had this big life over here, I had to have a relationship. And then in 2015,
that's a great answer. When we are in trouble, we all run to our sun sign. Think about it. All of us. If you're a Sag, you run to having more fun. If you're a Taurus, you run to locking down things more. It's your strength. She runs to, gotta have a damn partner. Find my strength in the partner.
That's true.
It changes later on.
Yes, it does.
Peggy, it's all right.
It does.
And Rachel says, ooh, dang good point. But what we find out, and it was written in the Exquisite Zodiac, what we find out is after things calm down, we usually find out that our answer is opposite the sun sign. Her answer was in Aries. Her answer really was in getting more of the self-developed. Hell with the relationship. Let me get myself. If it's in Taurus, you go to the opposite, which is Scorpio. So that's a truism just with basic astrology. So it sounds to me like you were really stirred up. It took a little while to. Rachel says, nah, the answer's in Pisces. Yeah, we know all the answers in Pisces. Anybody can figure out Pisces, raise your hand.
I can't.
Dear. Linda, are you flummoxed or you
Oh,
frozen?
did you want me to say something?
Yeah, I want you to continue after all my interruptions.
No, I mean, I just think I've said
What,
it.
what do you
Yeah.
think happened?
In 2000, in 1992 or 94, is that the one?
We had 92 through 94. Let's
You know,
finish, let's finish with your other one, which was 2015. This will be the last one today. Thank you all for your patience. This is not easy. Okay, so 2015, Pluto was opposite this point. So when you have a T-square, this is called the wake. Over here is the wake. There's nothing there, but it's the part behind the boat where all the energy is coming out. And it's very sensitive. It's just as sensitive as this point. Now it's second house versus eighth house. And I would say to you what it is, Linda, is I focus on my self-worth rather than our worth.
Oh, 100%. That's and it really actually started earlier because you know how like those sort of with periods sometimes with like, because it really started in 2013. And I remember doing a thing with you. I was sitting in the parking garage at Duquesne University and we were doing a thing. And you said to me, and this was 2013, you said, this isn't about the boyfriend, it's about you.
We were animating your chart.
Yeah, and then but where it really hit home for me was in 2015 where I just got it. It just happened. I understood, this sort of trauma that I've been through was just about me having to be a person without a partner.
And a lot of Libras wouldn't have failed. You succeeded most of all because your Pluto was so strong. And that comes from past lifetimes.
It was really, 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 really hard. It was really hard. I mean, I felt lost a lot of the time. I made
that's a lot of reallys.
I made 78 Pinterest boards because what I was trying to do was figuring out who I was.
What is a Pinterest board?
It's a place where you can like
a vision board?
A vision board, but it's online and you can pin all kinds of things. And like it was, I mean, I spent 78, I mean, the thousands of pins. I spent all this time. Every time I got like really like snakes were in my head, I would open up Pinterest and I would work. And I just figured myself out with Pinterest.
That's absolutely brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. And that shows what air signs do.
That's right.
They're not going to just cry on the paper and examine their tears. They're going to keep working mentally. What's the issue here?
Well, I would say things like, okay, I need to have more courage. And then I would start pinning everything I could find about courage. And I need this other thing. And what,
that's really, really admirable. It really, really is.
And you had a lot to do with that. So take a bow. Because I would not have understood any of that.
I got to be involved. I'm going to stop now. I'm sorry to do this, but we did get everybody involved. And this does give people incentive to become a regular because these kind of things happen.
Fun.
I got a neat story to tell you about Greg Keene, but I don't have the time. So I'll wait till I talk to him and then I'll let you know. There shall be. Hey, everybody, I thought it was really good because it's not just an intellectual pursuit. We're tying it to your chart. And that's why I knew I had to do pre-work before the evening started. You saw with most people that those dates were critical, with most, because I picked central spots. But anyhow, that's how you learn. I don't know what's next week. Let's all clap for Linda because that was.
This is my favorite part of the night. She goes, I figured myself out with Pinterest.
That sounds like she got interest from the bank. With interest.
That's the name of another great song.
Yes. Thank you, Rick. Thanks, everybody.
What was the other song? Wait a minute. What was the other thing we're going to do? That was Ray. No booze, no boys.
That's
no
right.
booze.
No boys, no booze.
No boys,
Yeah.
no booze.
And
Forget
figuring
that one.
myself
Mantra.
out with Pinterest.
All right, we
Yes.
got interest. There's no boys, no booze. We see you next week.
Love you
Okay.
guys.
Bye,
Governor,
guys.
bye.
So much.
Thank you
I
so
was-
much,
What a